We're going to go live right now to Metrolinx CEO Phil Verster speaking to reporters. Let's listen in.
We're finding and fixing issues and defects, and once we are satisfied that we've got the risk of those contained, we're going to announce an opening date, but not before. And the teams are very motivated and working with a great urgency to get this project over the line, as you could see today.
Are you optimistic it's going to be next year?
We're not going to guess. We're going to work through the issues. And one of the best examples you saw today is that of the signaling system, where the software upgrades that we need to implement there needs to be comprehensive and needs to give us that assurance of safe, reliable operation. So we're not going to be drawn on a date. We're not going to guess which year it is. We're just going to focus on driving the program forward on those 5 work streams we discussed with you, and we're going to relentlessly focus on getting those to completion. And when we feel the risks are contained enough and we can declare an opening date, we'll do so, and that'll be 3 months in advance of the actual opening day. So it'll be ample time for communities to be aware and for us to get the service to operate.
If you don't want to declare an opening date, can you rule out certain dates? Can you rule out spring?
Not going to be drawn into any guesses on dates.
But some of the engineers downstairs were saying that they need some warmer climates to do some work that would take about 3 months. So, I mean, the earliest we're looking at is late 2024, I would say.
More questions?
But Phil,
I mean,
can you answer that
weather
question though? Because it's a very clear question about, climate testing. You need a warmer climate to actually test the trains and the tracks and figure it out. Can you at least talk about that?
Yeah.
The timeline for that.
Yeah, depending on what type of conditions we need for the different types of tests. Some of it is weather dependent. Very much of the testing is dependent on what systems are available, how the systems are operating. It really is not possible to put a guesstimate on it. We will focus on getting through those 5 work streams, and then we will declare a date when we are ready to do so.
In terms of some of the repairs, the issues you're coming across, you said back in September, a weekly basis. Is that still the case? Are you still on a weekly basis coming across problems?
We are finding issues, defects on an ongoing basis, but let's go back to September. In September, the rail fleet was performing relatively poorly. We put an action plan in place with CTS. We brought in more resources, and the rail fleet issues were significantly rectified. 42 vehicles in service today, and the issues resolved. That's one example. And we will now focus with CTS to make sure that fleet is gradually ramped up and strengthened and brought onto a better level of performance. But if I take the signaling system upgrade we did in November, quite a lot of the defects in the software was rectified, but there are more issues that needs to be fixed, and there are more issues that needs to be rectified. And there's a next version of the software control which will be issued somewhere in the new year. So we are working hard to get to that stage and to see what that impact is. In the end, we need to run trains reliably at the right frequency all day long. And I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get these last software defects rectified, but we're working urgently to get that over the line. And while some issues are temperature dependent or weather dependent, most of the activities we've got is purely the systematic elimination of defects and issues.
When we see that graph upstairs, it says construction certificates 0%. So what does that mean? How long is that all going to take?
That's a great question. Construction certificates are the certification that the construction that was done to the design that was approved and that we paid for. So those construction certificates is based on system acceptance testing, both of the civil works as well as of the systems itself, site acceptance testing and system integration testing. All of that must be supported by the right documentation of the engineer of record that certifies that the work has been done properly and safely. In a nutshell, that is the confirmation that everything is built properly. And so those construction certificates will follow very much after those earlier graphs higher up on that table of the site acceptance testing and the system integration testing is completed. But there's a separate, very important work stream associated with that, which is the documentation of the design, the documentation of the construction, and the confirmation by the engineer of record, which works for CDS, that the task has been done right. So it's a really important part of finalizing the project and being sure that it's safe and reliable as an asset to open.
So just very briefly, if you can explain, because I think the average person, they see something that says 0%, that doesn't look good, that looks like it's a long way off. Could you just explain very briefly for the average person what it means?
While none of the construction certificates have been submitted or approved yet, there's a large repository of work that has been done and will follow through into the final certificate once the site acceptance testing is done, system integration is done, and documentation done. So there's a lot of work on that, but the certification is not completed yet. So we show that very transparently because that's a very important condition for us to get to the next step.
Can you
So
talk about...
one thing we did see is trains running back and forth. Several trains went by. Can you talk about how much of a step forward that is? That trains are running back and forth, and to the average person, if they see trains running, they'll say, "Well, what's the problem?" So
Yeah.
just explain what else needs to be done.
The fact that trains are running is extremely positive because as the trains run, it's very small steps but important steps are being tested and recorded. The signaling system detected previous train running when the trains didn't stop and the doors didn't open or close for the control cycle. So what you would have seen when we were downstairs is that the trains were running and doors were being cycled as in normal operation. All of that is really important steps to test how the signaling system interfaces to the train control system, because those two systems work hand in hand. So that's a positive step forward. What we are focusing on is that frequency and intensity of service that will have to be there on opening day. So to run 10 trains as we're doing today is a really good start, but we need to get up to 20 and 30 trains.
On the fine-tuning of the tracks, is that standard in a project like this? Like you were talking about having to move it by millimeters, or is that a case of, did somebody not follow the plans or the blueprints and now you're correcting it?
The fine-tuning of the tracks is corrective work. The tracks are laid in concrete foundation. So these installations are best done right first time around. The fact that it wasn't perfect doesn't mean it can't be rectified, and that's the program we're into now. And it's got 3 very clear phases. And so, yes, it could have been different, but every large transit project has its technical challenges, defects, and issues that are found at this testing phase. And that's exactly what we're doing.
But that sounds like a pretty significant correction. Who's responsible for that?
It's a significant correction, and CTS is responsible. And they take responsibility for that, and they are busy rectifying it, and it's an important thing to rectify. But the really important thing for me in this is that everyone is pulling in the same direction. We're all focused. We are all dedicated to get this project completed as quickly as possible.
Was anyone ever fired over all the mess that happened here?
Sorry,
Was anyone ever fired over, I mean, we're talking about likely at least a 4-year delay at the end.
There has been changes in the leadership on the CTS side. Bill Gifford has come in a couple of years ago and has brought the right focus to the project, and that was a big step up for us. The progress on this project is significantly better in this last year since we've started to open up the commercial issues some more, fix some of the commercial issues, and the progress now that you're seeing is largely based on the commitment of 1,200 people on the CTS side, 200 people on our side, 2 teams that are working closely together to get this over the line.
Can you talk about what's been learned and what you see as a, okay, we will never do that again? What's a never again that's been learned from this?
One of the main lessons from Eglinton Crosstown is that the way you procure these projects sets you up in a way for success or for a very challenging back end of the project. When you bundle all of the systems and the civil engineering into one project, such as with Eglinton, you get at the end of the project where 96% of the construction is completed and the most important work is the systems testing and commissioning. So when you look at what we've done on the Ontario line, is we've separated the civil contracts away from the railway system contracts. So the civil engineers build the tunnels and they build the stations, and the railway systems engineers put in the railway systems and the trains. And that's a big step forward. On all of our projects, we've seen that the biggest challenges are getting the train fleets built on time and delivered on time, and getting the signaling systems to operate appropriately and correctly.
Phil,
Let's do one more.
sorry, Phil, just in September, you wouldn't give a date. A lot of people were unhappy with that. Now you're giving we're not going to give you a date until 3 months beforehand. People aren't happy with that either. We're getting a tour of this location. The public's not. What good is having us here if nobody knows even an inkling of when they might be able to come here?
It is really important for us to talk to communities in a way which reflects what we really believe is possible. I want to say unambiguously, I apologize. I apologize to the businesses, to the communities, to the people of Toronto for the fact that this project is late. This project had technical issues on it long before any of us joined the project. It was affected by COVID. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is the project is late. And we are totally dedicated and totally focused on completing the project as soon as possible. That's our objective. And as part of that objective, where we have uncertainty in terms of how the end date will be affected by the types of things we are still finding and still busy resolving, cannot see that it's sensible or responsible to declare an opening date now. But I give you and the communities an absolute commitment that once we get through the worst of the risks, defects, issues that we are seeing, finding, and fixing, that we will declare a date.
Hey guys, can I ask one last question? I get that logic, but I think for all of us here today, it's obvious this is not opening in the first 3-4 months of next year. Bill said that you have to have no snow on the ground due to phase of testing. I understand your hesitancy to not declare an opening date, but why will you not be more upfront about, okay, it's not in the first quarter of next year, or something that the public can hold on to and feel like they're getting some kind of transparency here?
What we did today is full transparency. We gave you full transparency of the work. We answered the questions honestly and openly. The only thing that we're not willing to do is give you a guesstimate of a date. And I think that is going to be our position till we get through the main issues on those 5 work streams we're fixing. We are not going to guess a date. We have a very clear understanding of the work that must be done to get us there. You saw that today. We will continue to be transparent. We'll, in the new year, have more visits, more show walkthroughs, and we'll continue to answer your questions. And we will declare a date once we are through the period of testing and uncertainty we're in now, and we are 3 months away from opening.
Hey guys.
Sorry, can I just ask a question on behalf of the businesses down here? Many of us in this room have talked to people here. They are frustrated. You apologized just now to these people. Is there any form of support that Metrolinx is prepared to bring to help them out? Because you talk to business owners, they'll say, people think this area is still closed. They are struggling, and they have been struggling for years. What more is Metrolinx prepared to do to help them?
We have not stopped working with businesses or with BIAs throughout the period, and we will continue to do so. We have worked hard with CTS to return as much of Eglinton roadway and pavements back to operational service. We're doing everything we've committed to publicly and everything we are mandated to do in terms of support of businesses. And our focus is to get this open as quickly as possible, and we are working urgently to get that over the line.
Okay, guys, that's it. If you can drop your PPE though before you leave, just a gentle.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the visit. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been listening to Phil Verster, CEO of Metrolinx, talking to the media on the ongoing construction of the Eglinton Crosstown project, which is 3 years behind schedule. And for anyone who was hoping to find out more information on when it's opening, they're going to still have to wait.